children was kind of disappearing. So I began to write articles in Goa today. Some of them very fiery. But the thing is, I really enjoy the process of writing because I enjoy the process of reading. I'm also living in Goa. I had the opportunity and the space to meet writers. I mean, it's only a small place like Goa where it's become like a crossroads of the world where you suddenly would bump into people like an Oran Pamuk, which I never dreamt would ever happen. And coming to GoaWriters, I think what interested me most was this was a group of really chilled out people to start with. It wasn't some, stuffy intellectual writers who are going to like sit and pontificate on all kind of writing that happens. But rather it was a kind of an encouraging group where it opened to criticism. And I think this is what is great about the book when you look at Inside Out. The great thing is that it's this complete melange of viewpoints, situations, some people who have nothing to do with, celebrity or famous writers. It's this mix that I really love. And I had this idea that I was going to write about my story as an inspiration for other Goans who came from the same middle class background that I came from. And that's what I wrote about me, going through the process of becoming a designer and what I did in my work to make it, to be international and Indian and Goan all over.
So, and we realised that our database of talents was not just of writing, we had talents in many other areas. So, cogs started turning and I just thought, we can do this. And the discussion went on, and then we were talking about Go at the time. There was a lot of negative press about Go in the media. There were events that were happening that none of us were very happy about, that we felt were being portrayed in a way that wasn't necessarily true. Those discussions went on, and we started talking about different perspectives of seeing life in Goa, what it was like, true Goan, what was a true Goan. These discussions went on, and we came up with this name, Inside Out.
Vivek Menezes, who also introduced me to the group, introduced me to the topic of the Inquisition in Goa and the persecution of the Jews during the Inquisition in Goa. And as a Jew living in Goa, it immediately interested me very much. So it became a very emotional subject for me. There was about 2 years where I was completely obsessed with this topic of Catarina de Orca and the Inquisition. And my grandmother then passed away, and one I probably can never recover from the loss of a grandmother, especially a maternal grandmother as a woman, because it's your innate to who you are. And so I wanted to explore all of it in a short story. And I did.
So why an anthology after all these years?
Writing is a big ego trip, Actually, you enjoy writing. It's a kind of the safest public activity which is not a health hazard. And, you can enjoy yourself doing it, you can have fun doing it.
Good question,
I think we have so much fun that we should be arrested as quote someone else. In the national scheme of things, we have about 80,000-90,000 books coming out every year. But if you look at Goa, there are very few. And we are a society which doesn't write enough about itself. That's my point of view. There is a big queue of people who want to get published. The only thing is that, you need some quality filters there. If someone proudly says, I don't read any book and wants to write a book, that might be a little bit unusual. But, I think a lot of people have a story to tell. Every second Goan considers himself to be a historian.
I think the whole experience has been very exciting. People have come up, and it's sort of in a way a culmination of all our meetings and our efforts to write and to share and to bring out something concrete and good, and it's beautifully brought out. And for me, being from the outside, I wanted, this is a wonderful way of getting into the minds of the place. You know, the way I would dream of it is being like a crucible of ideas.
What world domination?
Well, it's, the way we are going, maybe we will.
Go for it.
What is that? Anthology because
Not anthology.
that's called what it. Anthology because
Then one day, fine day, Vivek came over and he said, you have to contribute something. But I said, Vivek, what can I contribute? Because mine is more academic work. And he said, why don't you do an essay writing, photo essay. So then I thought about it. What about photo? She says, write about yourself and your family, which I was not prepared to do. And then I remembered this photo that I had, and I've been looking at it just a few days earlier. And the people there were very much in my mind because I was very curious to know more about them. And that's what made me write this essay. To talk what my uncles used to talk or grandparents used to talk. Because they used to talk a lot about those uncles of theirs.
So there are a lot of stories like this in every home.
Of course.
It's very hard to be a writer in Goa. Conditions are difficult. We don't get enough respect. The circumstances of our lives are really not as easy as people like to think that they are. Just recently, for instance today my servant went to the market. All the migrants had bought the limbos. You know, I'm drinking my Bloody Mary here without a limbo. It's an intolerable situation. I mean, in a place like Meghalaya, there might be a riot about it. I don't think we should take this standing up. There can be improvements. Again, my mind continually turns to people like Chetan Bhagat and the kind of support he must have had in a place like IIT. Over here, you know, with the difficulties of life really weighing us down on a regular basis, I feel we need more solidarity of that type. And I really, you know, my heart yearns for it. Very deeply. So times are really difficult. So you can see I'm very stressed out now today. Difficulty is weighing on my head. The plight of the Goan writer is not an easy one. You know, it may look like I'm having a good time here. I'm hanging out with my friends. You're actually starving, right? I'm crying inside, Jose. I'm crying inside. This week is not satisfactory to me. It is not satisfying my inner hunger, my inner hurt. Partly because the migrants have bought all the limbos. And also the hole. You know, only writers will understand. Is there a hole in your heart? There's a hole in my heart. What can be done about it? And really, I feel that people in other states, people who have all the advantages of the world, like, you know, Chetan Bhagat.
Why did I write a short story? I think there are lots of short stories in a lot of us, lots of short stories in me, lots of stories and things that one has seen happening and one cannot, the nuances cannot be brought out through writing news features or by being writing a journalistic piece. So when one writes a short story, I think brings out so much more. One is able to talk about society, about belief systems, about traditions, about how traditions impinge on people. I think it's a good book because it's a fantastic compilation of different stories from different people, and many of them have told their personal stories, and these are reflective of the multicultural society that Goa is now.
So many of the writers have told their own story. They have come out with their own memoirs of sorts. Almost 3 or 4 of them are very autobiographical and in the tone of a memoir. But other short stories
stories have probably been, like for example, any story, maybe and Fever, Himanshu's story, Blood, and Sabia's story, Pride. Maybe some of them are our reflections or our projections of what we would think about Goa, what we envision Goa to be. We have projected that onto a story, whereas other writers, other members have written their own story, but they are all stories. What do you think, Annie? What do you think? What do you agree?
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely right.
And it's very much a personal journey.
Some other stories and someone
It's only after I retired and I joined GoaWriters that I really got on to writing.
You have some plans ahead, you want to write a book or something?
Yeah, I have plans to write a book, an anthology of stories of people who lived in Africa, Goan people who lived in Africa. Yes, I plan to write a sequel to it about my traveling to Goa by boat and by train, and then later on how I lived in Goa, the concepts I had about Goa and how they changed when I write it. I like to read thrillers.
Right.
Yeah.
James Harvey Chase.
Not James Harvey Chase, that's passé now.
She's all rusty now, and I don't drive anymore these days because the traffic is just too much. And when you've got a son and you're a mother, you think more responsible. So I don't want to take the risk to drive a motorbike in this country. And I'm only on the road with my car. So I mean, I'm missing to drive the motorbike because I really like to drive it, but as I said, the traffic is just too much. And I mean, the engine is excellent. There's nothing, they don't make engines like this anymore.
One of the things I really liked about this, about Inside Out, was that it was produced, yeah, sure. It was produced by a group of writers who just got together, who decided, okay, you will do the editing, you will do I will offer to do the design, I will do something about the distribution, and Frederick said he will co-publish it by Goa Musics, and then someone else volunteers to help with the launch, and it's all voluntary, it all comes together.
I'm basically a short fiction writer. My short stories are based on my experience of thoughts, which get expression in short fiction. Though I write in Konkani, because I find my expression the best when I write in Konkani. But then I'm also part of this Goa Writers group. The majority of whom are writing English. I feel that more and more of Konkani writers should come to the fold of Goa Writers group, so that more interaction takes place between these two language writers, which will help grow help the growth of Goan literature. Why I write in Konkani? Because I find the correct expression in Konkani, and it definitely makes an impact on the reader, because it is his own language and he can identify with the subject matter, because the subject matter belongs to this soil. For example, Ramnath Gowdy has written a beautiful novel on mining, illegal mining. We need writings of this caliber, of this standard, and of this subject, on these subjects, which is necessary. We have Prakash Pariyakar, who has been writing about the people's wars in Sattari, which have never so far reflected in Goan literature. I'm very happy that Konkani writings are going in the right direction.
Fantastic.
But then, Eddie, why did you look at this? You opened the book out there, and the first thing that strikes you is the font. What font have you used?
it's called Gaudi Old Style.
Gaudi Old Style font. Okay, and then
It's a reasonably traditional font. But it's not like working in the serif font, which is a very modern serif font. So it's an interesting, I thought, very interesting combination.
So some people like music, some people like art maybe. Some people like technology, they like fiddling around with mixers and ovens and computers. And some people like to write. So I fall in that category. I just love to play with words and ideas which are put down on paper or on the keyboard. I like the feeling at the end of it. My own story was based on, I was in Jodhpur when there was a Catholic guy who used to run a book shop over there. And I was really interested that he had come all the way from Goa and get settled over there. Dubai was a lot of people. And then I discovered that many of these acharyas or what we regard as or Maharajas, one or two of them actually moved from Goa in order to earn a living. And immigrants are great strugglers. So that's the opening sentence. And how this person, when he comes back to Goa, finds that that's not the Goa that anybody talked about or told him about. That's reality. It happens everywhere. It's not peculiar to this state.
Restricted myself to translating Damodar Mauzo for two reasons. One is that he's been a very close friend for many years, and he's also physically not very far from me, so I can always get back to him and check. But having said that, I also translated a couple of more writers like Mahabaleshwar Sail, whose short story Munis Buddhi was translated by me, and incidentally it won the Katha Award for translation. I've also translated Olivia Gomez and Teja Kamar. I see GoaWriters evolving not only as a literary force, but even as a very strong moral force. Actually, Devanagari is not a script that I have learned, but I taught myself a script because I never learned anything either. But it is a little difficult even today, but having overcome that obstacle, it's pretty good because the works that are there available in Konkani, in Devanagari, are of a very high caliber compared to in Indian or international literature.
What's your favorite experience for writing?
I enjoyed in a sense, I think it appealed to the writers because the title was so open and free. And therefore, the constraints were almost non-existent. People wrote about what they were passionate about. And I think that translates well for them.
Take it easy, relax, enjoy. What is the loss of this?
When you enjoy writing, I think people enjoy
Good stuff, man.
writing.
Really appreciate your hard work.
I actually
Nothing like it.
hate
It's a
writing,
bit on YouTube.
but I love having written.
It speaks very clearly.
Why do I write? I don't know, but at a particular point, I knew that writing was one of the most important things for me to do as a person. I don't know the why. By the way, the piece in Inside Out, I wouldn't dare call it poetry. I think it's prose, but I wrote it in the rhythm of walking, and that's how it happened. To some extent, I think it is true to say that the majority of youngsters don't read over much. But I do know some who read. In fact, they are addicts of books in their teens. And I don't see that dying as they grow older.
My best man, Conrad, is also my younger brother. His lifestyle remains just like his brother. This is his first stories for children. So I don't consider them to be poems or ballads or anything like that. For me, they are simply stories. I write them for myself and for children. This is like someone actually. And in fact, I started writing because of it. Every night before going to sleep, when I used to go to sleep, the mark is so. If it wasn't then writing books, I want an original story. Tell me one about Sukkali, Masala, another cousin. So all these stories, tell me about a pillow. So I have no choice. Less than one thing. Start your story of music. And I said, okay, why not put it on paper? When I started writing, I could only write the words. She's 12 right now. And one of the reasons why I really want my stories to be published is because I want her to be proud of me. I want her to be able to flaunt the book and say, this is my dad's.
We certainly had a lot of fun making inside out. Well done,
And this is Cecile demonstrating the power of his phone.
It's shockproof, dustproof, stretchproof, and foolproof, like inside out, waterproof. Inside,